Welcome back to the channel and all my new Baltimore Ravens fans who may be checking this video out. It's the season of the series. Right now we have our brand new series, What to Expect, and this is yet another series that I'm starting, and that's breaking down and ranking my top 5 offenses, going in depth. And at number 5, I got the Baltimore Ravens. Now, this may be a bit low for some people. This may be a bit high for some people. This is where I have the Baltimore Ravens based on the weapons, offensive line, Todd Monken, Harbaugh, all of these guys. And I'm basically just going to be breaking this down, talking about some of the things and what we can look for as far as formations, personnel, all of the expectations. Lamar Jackson said he wants to throw for 6,000 yards. Will it be possible in this offense? Now, 6,000 yards for anybody. I don't even think Peyton Manning, Tom Brady could have eclipsed that mark, but we do have a very, very scary offense that we're working with right here. And I'm going to start off with the outside receivers. We see Rashad Bateman. We see Odell Beckham Jr. Now, what can we really expect out of Odell Beckham Jr. at this point? I think he's a high-end 2. I don't think he's that number 1 guy who you're doubling the entire game, who you're sending your entire defensive game plan towards, but I do think he's a guy that can still hurt you. He can still punch you in the gut if you don't pay him enough attention. Route running is crispy, can still run after the catch, can still get the 50-50 ball. He can do all of those things. I'm hearing Odell washed. I don't think he's washed. He had some unfortunate injuries, and he was close to a Super Bowl MVP if he never got hurt on that Rams team. I mean, we all saw it, had the touchdown catch, was dominating the first half of that game. You know, you're going against Eli Apple, you're kind of going to dominate, but still, with that being said, he dominated, and I think he can dominate in this system. Now, before we talk about all of these players, we got to think about Todd Monken. Looking at Georgia's offense, what was prevalent in that offense? We saw a lot of wide zone runs. We saw some inside zone runs, using those backs in versatile ways. And also, he's going to be using a J.K. Dobbins out of the backfield. We can expect him to catch the football some. Now, Gus Edwards, I don't really think he's the catching threat. I think he's more of that workhorse, more of that power back, get you those tough yards, get you those consistent 3 to 4 yards on the goal line, on short yardage situations. Justice Hill, kind of being an elusive back, he can do some of the things that J.K. Dobbins can do, but I think Dobbins is more overall. Talking about Hill and Edwards, kind of the best of both worlds, and I expect him to have a big season, but he got to stay healthy. That's the biggest thing with Dobbins and tight ends. Now, we think about Darnell Washington. We think about Brock Bowers. We think of all these guys who were key factors in the Georgia offense. And how are we going to use them here? Now, looking at the tight ends, Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews, 2 great receiving threats, and I'm taking it there. I think Isaiah Likely has a lot that we haven't seen yet, but on the short amount of film that I've watched on him, he's a very special tight end. He can run the route tree. He can read out zone coverage. He can run after the catch. He can get contested catches. He can do all of the things. Now, he's not the biggest guy. He's not in the biggest frame coming out of Coastal Carolina, but I do think what he's shown me so far, I expect him to be a heavy part of this offense. Now, how do we balance this out? And I think it's so interesting. This is why they're the top 5 offense for me. We can have threats. I'm talking about receiving demons on the football field at all times. Because say we don't run 3-by-1. Say we want to run 12 personnel. Say we want to run 22 personnel. If we want to get those 2 tight end sets, we can have Andrews and Likely. And Andrews can still block. Now, I think Isaiah Likely's the more athletic of the 2, but we talk about Andrews. He's kind of well built. He's kind of all around, has a catch radius, can do all of the things that Isaiah Likely can do, but he adds that bigger frame. He adds that block into his game. Now, what I talk about when I say this is because we got Zay Flowers. This was our first round pick. This is the guy who's supposed to bring the juice, quote unquote, juice to the offense. But we still have so many weapons behind that. Still got a Devin Duvernay. He stepped up in the absence of Rashad Bateman. Still got a Nelson Aguilar. He can still get behind a defense. We're 5 deep in the receiving room. And you see that guy right here at the bottom? Andy Isabella. He's a guy who can run for a 3. We have so many receiving threats. James Prochet to add into there. So we can do it all. These guys, they're coming in and out. We're clicking. Lamar, this season is really dependent on you. And I think you're going to get back in that MVP race. I think you can be an MVP candidate. Looking at these weapons, knowing Todd Monken and how he likes to run his offenses, you got everything on the table. It's about how do you dish out the food and who's going to eat the most. I don't think there's any big heads in this room. And when I talk about big heads, I don't think there's a guy who's going to mess up the chemistry. I think these guys want to win at this point in their careers. Odell Beckham, he won a ring, but if he would have played that whole game, it would have hit differently. So if he can get a ring being a key contributor on the Baltimore Ravens, I think he's all for that. Now, understanding that he's on that 1-year deal, has a lot of incentives in that deal that can get him up to $18 million. So truthfully, he's looking for that payday, but at the same time, I think he wants to win. This may be his last best chance to win. Are they going to re-up him? We don't know all that, and that's, further down the road. But looking at what we have now, it's a lot. And like I said, their running back room has had some unfortunate luck. Dobbins has gotten hurt. Edwards has gotten hurt. All these guys have gotten hurt. Even Lamar has gotten hurt. Being a part of the run game, taking sacks, things of that nature. So everyone, we just have to stay healthy. Rashad Bateman's coming back off of injury. Odell's coming back off of injury. Lamar is coming back off. All of these guys are coming back off injuries per se. And it's really about how we distribute these offenses. How do we do this? And I think putting it together, I'm going to give you my guys who I think will pop in this offense. And for all my fantasy draft guys, all the guys who like to look at fantasy score, you like to do those DraftKings types of things, Zay Flowers is a guy to look out for because I think Rashad Bateman is a low-end one. And we talk about his production, everything he's done up to this point. It may not reflect being a number one receiver, but look at his skill set. Look at what he did at Minnesota. Look at his draft profile. Look at what he's done so far. And I think with having Greg Roman, it's tough to be in an offense and look like a number one receiver. We saw it for the longest. Now, the argument against that could be, okay, they haven't truly had a number one receiver in Baltimore. And I think that's been the biggest thing, getting Lamar help, and that's the narrative right now. But we look at Todd Monken. Todd Monken is a different cat than Greg Roman. And I mean, it's gonna really be happening quick. We're going to see the shift from week 1, from preseason, OTAs, training camp. It's a lot of different shifts. So Lamar Jackson, I'm expecting a higher completion percentage. I'm expecting all of these things. And Zay Flowers is going to be that guy that we got a game plan for Odell. We got a game plan for Bateman. Zay Flowers, who's going to cover him? How many slot guys can keep up with Zay Flowers? Let's be honest and let's be realistic. Unless you're getting physical with him, putting your hands on him, and he's going to have to work on beating press releases, beating things of that nature, physical in his route tree. But at the end of the day, he's juice with the football, and I talked about that's why you draft him in the first round. We looked at Quentin Johnson. We looked at Jackson Smith. We looked at all of these first-round receivers, but I think he's the one that stood out, and I think he could have easily been the first receiver off the board. Now, you add that for Lamar. You got Bateman coming back for Lamar. You got Odell coming in for Lamar. Aguilar still being there. Duvernay, Andrews, Likely, Dobbins, Edwards. So it's no secret as to what the Baltimore Ravens are going to do. This is going to be a very electric offense. Now, I do want to touch on this quickly because how can you do it without the offensive line? Offensive line is not a big problem for them. We see they got Ronnie Stanley. We know what he is as a left tackle. We see they got Morgan Moses, a veteran in that room, a solid tackle. Kevin Zeitler, Pro Bowl candidate year in, year out type of guy. Tyler Linderbaum, I think he can develop into being that all-pro center down the road. I really liked him coming out of the draft. I thought he was one of the best linemen in his draft class, but being a center, we know you're going to fall a little bit, and that's to be expected. Now, with that left guard position, that is kind of where we can look. I would say that's the weakest link. I don't say it's a terrible position for them, but all of these guys are good. And I'm not saying the left guard isn't good, but when you have all of these high-end players, and then you have a player who's kind of mid-tier, kind of an average league-level player, this is the weak link of your offense. Now, you drafted a Voorhees coming off that injury. Will he be able to play this year? I think not. I think this is a red shirt year for him, but he's a very good football player coming out of USC. I think he'll end up fighting for that starting spot. Ben Cleveland, a veteran in that room, he's going to try to keep that job. He's going to try to keep it down the road, but right now, he's the guy right there. And I expect him to be pretty solid. Now, with Ben Cleveland, I think there's 4 guys around him who can handle one-on-one blocks. So with that being said, now we can kick doubles. Now we can kick help with them. We can high-low a defensive tackle. Because we have all of these guys around, we're not really worrying about him being the weakest link on offense because we have all of the things to cover that weakness. Now, talked about the offensive line, talked about the weapons, the running backs, the receiving core. Lamar Jackson, this is on you right now. And I'm very excited to see what you do because I think you have all of the talent in you. Tyler Huntley, if it comes down to it, I think he can get it done with these guys. It's so much weapons, and I think that's underrated because we look at Odell, we look at Zay. These are the new guys. They're popping. They're all the guys on social media. but there's some dogs that was still in that room. Let me know what you think about this. I want to know, let me know in the comments your top 5 offenses, because I got my number 4 coming out soon, and that's going to be a video I think may surprise some people. You don't know right now who my number 4 offense is. You might think you know, but you don't know, and I'm guaranteeing you that. So when you see that, you're going to say, this is his number 4 offense in the NFL that he's expecting to take over, and I'm going to say, yeah, because I got some real expectations for some of these teams, and it's just a great series. This is the first episode, starting with number 5. What do you think about the Ravens offense? Is it too high or is it too low? I'm going to leave you with that thought, and that's going to do it for today. And now, we out.